see with this deck is kind of running out of resources and not having the ability to use Survival of the Fittest, since you're not playing like exotic mount sellers to be able to capitalize on it immediately. But this deck does have the potential for insane turns very early on into the game, and I think that's where its power lies. It's just being able to have these kind of I win hands that not many decks can even contest. So I'm excited to see it. It is one of those decks that can look like it's one of the worst decks, and then it can have those turns where it goes Kael'thas, Guardian Animals, Survival of the Fittest in the same turn, and have a massive board that sets up a lethal as early as like turn 8 or 9. So looking forward to this one.
Should be good. So here we go. Game number 1 between bloodyface and Monsanto, as bloodyface holds on to nature studies, repositioning himself. Yesterday it seemed like he was kind of leaning back on the couch. Today he's leaning forward onto the desk. Got to test out different optimal thinking positions. He doesn't think too much more about what he wants to do with that overgrowth. He's certainly going to ramp, and it's going to be
his hair was tucked back.
I know.
Unless your theory was correct, and it was a bloody face imposter. He didn't get a haircut. Right. Unless his hair just grows
his evil twin.
An abnormal pace.
Perhaps so. Perhaps there was some camera tricks being involved. Either way, the mystery of bloodyface's hair length continues. But perhaps the even more pressing question is, what is going to happen off of this overgrowth? And Guardian Animals, turn 3 can play overgrowth. Gains 2 more mana crystals, so you can next turn innervate out that Guardian Animals and then go into overflow. It's going to be really nasty, and Rogue honestly doesn't have too many ways to deal with that at the moment, especially if they are reactive and on the coin, so you're being 3 mana crystals ahead. One of the few ways you can actually interact with it, though, is Cult Neophyte. Oh my goodness. Bloodyface with an Lightning Bloom and Overgrowth here, and instead tries to get that that ramp out very early here. What do you think about this play, TJ?
I don't know how I feel about it, because it doesn't change how fast Guardian Animals comes out. It's just now... Yeah, because he had the nature study, so if he hero powers here and plays Overgrowth next turn, he still plays Guardian Animals 2 turns from now, so it doesn't change that clock at all. He's also almost guaranteed to have a dead turn next turn no matter what, where if, you know, he had gone with the pass and Overgrowth, his... Okay, I guess the only thing that this play does is open him up the ability to make a play this turn, right, with 3 mana. Because if he hero power and passes, he's 100% overgrowthing on this turn right now. Whereas if he lightning blooms and overgrowths, it means that he has 3 mana available this turn to spend however he wants. So that's the only upside I can see. And having the 3 mana to be able to do whatever he wants this turn comes at the expense of actually using a Lightning Bloom and not having that for like maybe a powerful Kael'thas turn. So I actually don't know how I feel about it, Dan. This is... I can't think of a better reason why.
Yeah, that's right. And I am very curious as well. I think maybe he felt like he was going to have it on the same exact turn. But personally, my belief is that he was afraid of Cult Neophyte, and he didn't want to necessarily get blocked on a really important turn where Monsanto would be disrupting him. So,
okay, Cult Neophyte,
Bloodyface accounting for the possibility that Monsanto would have the ideal disruption against him.
You're absolutely right, yeah. Cold Neophyte's in the hand, but I was so tunneled on Bloodyface's hand for some reason. I was like, he's playing weaponry. He doesn't have Cold Neophyte. You are 100% correct. Although, if there is a Cult Neophyte in hand, which is what he's playing around, it's going to delay the Guardian Animal's turn regardless, as you can see here. The upside of doing the Lightning Bloom Overgrowth first is that you'd rather have the mana crystals and not be able to play guardian animals than not have the mana crystals and not be able to play guardian animals, because then it allows him to do things like this, where if he went with the other play, he would be overgrowthing this turn and wouldn't have the mana crystals for a few more, and that comes at the expense of a lightning bloom. So I guess I do agree with it in that case. For some reason I was like, Cold Neophyte's card that doesn't exist, but there are pros and cons, and that's why he took so long for that turn, because he was weighing them and just said, you know what, I'd rather have the mana crystals now.
Yeah, and kind of going back over to Monsanto, who is living in a post-Cult Neophyte world, has a Janus Barrow on 4 with the coin. This might be the best time to play it, knowing that you're going into a Guardian Animals turn and trying to preemptively load onto the board and not fall too far behind. Yes, your opponent will get to rush and choose what they want to attack, but maybe you get a pretty good opportunity. He finds Tundra Rhino and Temple Enforcer, pretty reasonable summons off of Janus. Usually you're pretty happy to see Tundra Rhino because of the trades that you can usually get. But in this case, Monsanto's just maximizing his pressure. And bloodyface does have 2 Lake Threshers in his deck, so he's really hoping to clean everything up. Finds one of them. It's about the expected situation. And now this Janus positioning, Monsanto actually put the weakest minions on the outside while having Janus be split. So bloodyface will be able to use his cleave here and hit, guaranteed that one of them will die.
Yeah. No matter which way he positions this, a Lake Thresher could still hit his Janus. If he positions the Janus on the right side, though, then he gets to hit one of the weaker minions and cleave over to guaranteed know which one the illusion was and take off both the weaker minions. So I do think that this positioning is just the best. Ooh, the Educated Elec. That's interesting. Always a weird card to prop up in Druids. You see it from Survival Druids, from the Exotic Mount Seller. Usually it's a detriment because you oftentimes don't want to just be drawing random spells from another class. You'd rather be drawing the spells and cards that you decided to put in your deck. But only it's just going to get Blackjack Stunnered here, so it doesn't matter. And this is full tempo play for Monsanto. I do like this because this is quite annoying for bloodyface to deal with. Even though there's not much power on board, there's a secret that he has to account for, and these minions are not the easiest to remove. Looking at bloodyface's deck list, he does run double animated Broomstick, so he will be able to make use of that like Thresher at some point. But it is expensive.
Yeah, and I mean, look at this runic carvings
to
try and win back the board, and it's all stabilization tools. That's all bloodyface is looking for. It's totally okay to give up HP. This rogue that Monsanto has is not really the variant that pressures the opponent with a lot of damage from hand. There's some, it's not a lot. And you know, you're trying to build up big tempo. Okay, that is a fantastic tempo card, Restless Mummy, but this might be one of the weakest uses of Restless Mummy right now. Along with these spells, just some of Mage's best spells, and they're also a little bit weak in this position. Yeah,
in this position they're pretty weak, but overall in the grand scheme of things, I can find uses for all of these. I feel like Devolving Missiles is probably the best, just because bloodyface is playing a double Survival of the Fittest version, and Devolving Missiles is a good way to get rid of a ton of power on board, but it is reactive, right? If you're in that position, you're having to play Devolving Missiles, maybe he feels like that's like too situational, but so are the other cards, right? Like the Ray of Frost kind of does the same thing in a Survival of the Fittest situation, and then Fireball, he's nowhere near killing bloodyface, so that one I feel like is off the table. The problem with this rogue deck against Druid is, unless you're getting a pretty fast start, you cannot match them in the late game. Your win condition is almost down to either blowing out the game early with like Questing Adventure, or finding this turn later in the game to play like big Questing Adventure and Edwin Van Cleef and protect it with cards like Cold Neophyte. Outside of that, this deck is trying to gain a lot of value, and Druid kind of likes that because they're not really about value. They're just about raw power and raw stats. So bloodyface, I think, is pretty happy to kind of go for this. And he's going to be able to clear the board again, draw a bunch of cards.
Yep. Feels really nice and clean here for bloodyface. Oh,
Yeah,
Iron Bark
turn.
to help just use this turn. Does have the ability to save these for Mount Seller as well, so it looks like he is going to toss a broomstick. All right, Monsanto needs big value off of this Dragon's Horde. But you're already starting to see a little bit of why Rogue is struggling towards the mid portion of the game. If they don't have the early lead like you're talking about, what are you trying to do? You're hoping that Secret Passage can change it?
Yeah.
Are you hoping that Dragon's Horde gives you a playable tempo minion here?
I might dump Backstab here as well on the Broomstick, because you're going into turn 10. Bloodyface has drawn a lot of cards. Yeah, I think you drop the Backstab here because if you don't find anything that boosts the board, that Broomstick turns into a 5/5. And even though you have Devolving Missiles on the other side, you'd rather not have to that early on if Bloodyface is going to spend his entire turn going for something like that.
Oh,
All right,
Swamp
okay.
Thief is nice. Whoa.
Choose soon.
Pick your fire. Fireballs. Fire blast.
And then you cash in on the Fireball right now, right?
Yeah, prep fireball.
I want to get this bad boy up. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Let's see it.
That's not something you see all the time.
And I feel like this game is about to end.
One way or the other.
This is a quite an insane turn from Bloodyface. If he were to want it, he can get Kael'thas, Animated Broomstick, and Survival of the Fittest down.
My people are addicted.
Clearing off the board, developing 2 massive minions. Problem is the
Yeah,
Bothwing would be
however-
kind of wasted in that instance.
Yeah, I would say that there's not a lot of Mount Seller stuff going on, so you can buff all the board you want, but Devolving Missiles is pretty powerful.
What?
Yeah, he doesn't play Mount Seller in his list.
Right, exactly. So with no Mount Seller, oh, you're right. I was looking at the wrong list here. But you know, without the ability to use Mount Seller to generate a bunch of threats, then Bloodyface will have really tall minions on the board, but not really as wide, making the Devolving Missiles very effective against a survival situation.
Yeah, the problem then becomes, you know, how do you deal with the other massive minions? Oh, whoa. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Now it's leaning some really good tempo. Not playable this turn, but what's fun about it is you can even combine some of these battle cries with Shadow Step. So, like, let's say you play Natalie Celine, next turn you trade Natalie, and then you Shadow Step and tempo again. Looking pretty spicy here.
Yeah. What if you Mind Flayer Cars also? You Mind Flayer Cars to Kael'thas, then Devolving Missiles, there's a 4-drop. I guess in that case, the Edwin Van Cleef wouldn't be as big. Oh, Lord Barov!
Oh, Lord Barov looks good, but Terralion, is that how you say his name? I haven't actually heard people say his name too often there, but is also a really interesting removal option. But then your hand becomes super expensive, so it's probably Lord Barov.
I think the U, the R, and the A and the L are all silent. That's just gone.
Let's just call him by his name in the hood. T-Money.
Oh, wow. That's actually a pretty unfortunate target of the for the Devolving Missile, just because he can't play the Edwin in that case. He had to go for the Restless Mummy to clear that off.
Right. Not having that Edwin here is the big deal.
Yeah.
Whoa! So is this Natalie Celine?
That is big. That is huge.
An
Void
8-16.
What?
Guess what's bigger than an 8-16? An
8-17.
8-17.
And he's got the combo, Dan. He's got Lord Brav backstab.
Yeah.
That is a big teacher's pet. Wow, Guardian Animals now. Okay, there's still one Lake Thresher, so it's Lake Thresher Twilight Runner. Well, turns out that's 17.
Yes. I mean, there's just so many big minions. It was really funny, but also sort of unfortunate about situations. Monsanto has to like backstab his own Lord Barov in order to deal with the minions that are threatening him, and then he'll be like effectively all in. So he wants every portal to get drawn here.
That's 4. Yeah, I guess you do go all in. You Lord Brav, backstab, plagiarize. You could even go Edwin, Shadow Step Edwin. You miss a dagger up, but if you just want the biggest thing possible. Maybe he feels like he'll need Shadow Step for more value, but honestly, like with this kind of situation for Bloodyface where everything is huge, do you really have time for value? I don't think so. I think you got to kind of just go kill him as quick as possible.
Right. I like the Edwin, Shadow Step Edwin. I think it's just because I like really big numbers. To fight druids, really big numbers. If our goal is to count to 30 first, Edwin does that a lot quicker with 12-12 versus an 8-8.
Yeah. Santos playing 2 dirty tricks and a plagiarize.
Right.
But he actually used both dirty tricks.
I was even thinking about the fact that Educated Elite got buffed by the survival of the fittest,
Yeah.
just because you don't often see these minions that pop out end up being the ones bounce back, and then of course, getting opportunities to buff them with survival. This is just really tricky. Monsanto needs to hope for something nice on the top of his deck. He does get 2 cards with the Plagiarize, so he gets double 5-drop.
And I do like
Alright.
the Lake Thresher there instead of the Educated Ally from Bloodyface, because if he knows that this is plagiarized, so he wants to be able to cleave some of these minions.
Oh, up to no good. Me too.
Ooh. Oh, 2 health. You just put these next to the teacher's pet to put as much distance between that teacher's pet and the Edwin as possible.
Yeah, and then the positioning is going to be something annoying for Bloodyface when he doesn't have that broomstick. The best way to utilize this Titanic Lack, you can't use it to taunt anything that you don't want to die here. So like if you taunt Edwin, you're just going to get attacked into. Putting it on the teacher's pet doesn't do anything because it's just going to get killed anyways by the Lake Thresher.
I am the storm of your demise.
So this will draw the remaining cards from his deck. He's got 2 Dream Portals, Speaker Gidra, Ironbark, and Innervate. The Speaker Gidra will allow him to push through the Teacher's Pet, so I think that's why he's decking himself.
Right, that does make sense.
Because he's going to put game-ending power on the board, no matter which way you slice this. So he just wants to make sure he could go Speaker Gidra, which is buffed.
Then just
by the
chomp
Survival of the
through
Fittest.
this. Yeah. So this is the big victory push here from Bloodyface. Good sequencing to ensure that he has an opportunity to also lethal with the spell burst of Gidra. No taunt in the way so that Bloodyface can... Actually, it doesn't really matter because he has the Speaker Gidra Wind Fury.
I give up.
And that's going to do it. The Rogue struggles to kind of get it over the line. They do a lot of really flashy things, as you saw. A lot of cool value battles. But eventually, some decks, they have enough. And they say, you know what? I'm just going to present boards to kill you. And then Rogue's like, you got me. I actually don't have any way to win from this position. So we've seen this a couple of times already this weekend with Rogue. And we've seen Rogue falling in popularity. Maybe it's definitely worth thinking about, right? Some people are building all kinds of different variants of Rogue, like the aggro stealth Rogue, the weapon Rogue. Doesn't seem like the secret Rogue is generally doing very well here.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that match is pretty tough unless you get a really fast start and get a questing on board early that's protected. But as soon as the Druid takes the board once, it becomes really difficult for the Rogue to get back in the game when you're playing against that kind of big of a survival version. And he even had some really good legendaries from Dragon Sword that allowed him to almost perfectly deal with 2 massive board states for Bloodyface. And even beyond that, just he couldn't find a way to win the game. So well played to Bloodyface, and now gets to go into this Turtle Mage game with a 1-0 lead. And pretty standard Turtle Mage list from what we've seen. The Violet Spellwing inclusion, all these extra stuff in the bottom half of the deck are just for tempo. This deck does play pretty aggressively for tempo earlier on in the match, just so that I can get to the combo safely. The earlier iterations of this deck didn't do that. They played like more of a control style, and a lot of players realized it was too slow, and you almost didn't have a chance to win if you drew double push it in those versions. So since then, you start seeing a lot more like wand makers, firebrands. A Prison Observer, I think, is one of the best cards in the deck, just period, because it's a delayed tempo and forces your opponents to play in kind of a awkward way. So we'll see how Bloodyface fares on this Turtle Mage, and is Monsanto queuing? Yeah, queuing the same thing. He's going to be queuing the Rogue.
Watch your...
Yeah, and I think that he really wants to get this Rogue to beat decks like the Mage, because they do take a little bit of time to set up, and Rogue can present really complicated board states with the early questing adventure and with a lack of direct spell removal. They would have to have right combination of early game in order to take that down. But Monsanto doesn't have a very aggressive opening hand. He's got a value hand, but Dirty Tricks doesn't really work on a deck that doesn't tend to play a lot of spells. Interesting enough, it actually would be okay because Bloodyface does have some minions that generate spells guaranteed.
Yep. That's an opening hand from Bloodyface. Pretty much all of his good tempo tools that he has just right in the opening hand. Violet Spellwing, Wand Maker, into a Prison Observer. Pretty much everything that you could want. Just missing like a Firebrand to be able to go pretty wide. This is the second game in a row that Monsanto had the opportunity to go Feral Cat into Temple Berserker, but because Bloodyface is on the coin, that's for the Dirty Tricks instead.
Yeah, it ends up being totally fine against this early Violet Spellwing. Okay. In a weird way, you want your opponent to play a spell, though, so like Cult Neophyte does not seem like this is the time to play it, but you also recognize that there's not many opportunities to do so because of the lack of spells, and so they're earlier able to disrupt things like their coin plays, the better. Yeah. However, there is abundance of 3-mana stuff to play usually in the Turtle Mage. That's usually when they start to have lots of playable cards or things to think about, especially since they already have the Vile Spellwing and the Wand Maker on board.
I kind of want to just keep it simple here and play like Temple Berserker Wand Thief.
Yeah.
Maybe that's too simple because Temple Berserker doesn't have, I guess it does match up kind of well on the board, but you can value trade over the Violet Spellwing. The problem that I see with that play is I guess you don't really know what spell you want. Wow. Okay. Doesn't want him to have arcane missiles at all.
Right. I mean, it is interesting because, you know, these cards that are harder to play sometimes do become something that Turtle Mage struggles to dump against. But it does feel like it's a pretty interesting, or rather a pretty peculiar tempo play, right? Because it does feel like there's many things that you can do to potentially impact the board in other ways. Let's say, for example, you're trying to push for lethal. You want to get past a Cartoon Defender really efficiently. But I think maybe Monsanto says that's just too far down the line. He wants to take the guarantee, get a little bit of board presence, and try to make it uncomfortable for Bloodyface to ever get his defenses rolling. Because that's the whole point here. Bloodyface is just really stalling until he can get to that point where he feels really comfortable to just play freezes nonstop.
Let's draw both of his Frost Novas, which, you know, will likely not matter. But what the Frost Nova does is it opens up opportunities when you do get the combo rolling to not have to damage the board and limit the board space that your opponent has. And Rogue is one of the decks that you can do that against the best because they are playing smaller things like Lackeys and Miscreant. So there's a lot of situations where you'd love to limit board space to limit the amount of things that your opponent can do to react. So maybe a small downside, but you'd much rather have double Frost Nova than, say, double Potion. Because then it just shuts off the combo, period.
Yeah,
it does
I'm
feel
totally
like a little
down.
bit too slow of a start for Monsanto here. I feel like Monsanto has played more games against Turtle Mage than any other player in America's Grandmasters. He's played against it like almost every week. You know, maybe that's on him for, you know, not bringing a lineup where he can afford to ban it, or maybe not bring it in himself to try and counter it in the mirror matchup.
Right, making his opponents want to bring Turtle Mage because of you know, some of that banter back and forth where he's just like, Turtle Mage is bad. Imagine bringing Turtle Mage, and everyone brings Turtle Mage against him, which would just be.
Has he ever beaten it?
You know, I could go back and look on the scheduling if you're really interested in this. I'm sure our in-house statistician Lorinda could easily summon that and take a look. But for Monsanto specifically, has been pretty subpar against the field with his record. So I have to imagine that he's lost in the Turtle Mage a handful of times.
Yeah. Well, I like this play. Now that Cole Neophyte's going to die anyway, so use that Ray to beef up the Edwin and try and put something big on board against this Imprisoned Observer. At the very least, you probably force out a spell, which activates the Dirty Tricks, which means you get to draw some cards.
Makes sense to me. It feels kind of interesting to see Monsanto feel like he's all in already, but that is kind of the state of how things have gotten to this point.
Yeah.
And Bloodyface pretty much doesn't have to even win with the freeze combo anymore. If he just runs Monsanto out of resources, he just plays a minion. Oh, 2 secret passages though. That's huge. Monsanto basically has 8 cards now. And those cards generate other cards. Monsanto is back in the game.
Yeah, he can actually spend all of this to really pump this questing adventure up. It's just that this backstab would kind of be wasted. But that backstab's going back into his deck. And he has second Secret Passage in hand, so there's, you know, the 2 things to consider there. Is it worth the +1/+1 on the questing adventure? And do you actually want to have a chance to draw another backstab with the second Secret Passage that you're most likely going to be reloading with next turn as well? There's also like some considerations for not playing the questing at all. No, I don't like that. I was thinking because like timing of the questing adventure can be important. Because if you're just playing it now when, you know, you're not close to a win condition, maybe that's later. Whoa!
TJ, there's some spiciness on the board that you see right now. You're taking Lord Jiraxis. What
So,
a hero!
Draxus is consistent damage from hand, which is something that this deck lacks, and one of the things that Turtle Mage struggles with the most. That is a pretty good pickup. Also picks up Wrapped Golem from the Pharaoh Cat, which is just a big threat. I mean, I don't think its its effect is particularly good against Turtle Mage, but just having a big threat that Bloodyface has to respond to is also good. And he's got 2 big threats already that Bloodyface kind of needs to respond to with the Questing Adventure and the Edwin Bank Leaf. And he has drawn both his Tortolans, but he's also drawn 2 Frost Novas and a Blizzard. So if he draws another Blizzard from his deck before he can get these Tortolans down and start the chain, he will not have those consistent freezes from hands each time he plays a Tortolan Pilgrim, which is a massive downside. He'll have to rely on the freezes from his deck, which, you know, he's got a ton of them, but might even feel the need to expend one here to try and make sure that he can play his first Tortolan safely.
I mean, that kind of security of mind is important for this Turtle Mage. You don't want to have to play the Tortolan unless you really need to, because the more mana you have, the more powerful the initial combo is. A lot of Turtle Mages believe that you have, me giving sentience to Turtle Mage players. A lot of Turtle Mages believe that you have to have 10 mana for Tortolan Pilgrim to be at its full potential. Like, if you're just playing on 8, it's not good enough. So if you can avoid playing on 8, good. Does Bloodyface have to try and do that now? I mean, with the Sunray Reward Mage
and I don't think he wants to freeze now, but like, just leaving that much power on board is too scary, I feel.
Yes.
That's 9 power, you're at 16. There's a chance that he could find some additional damage, even though he doesn't really play any in his deck. It's possible to get it from like Wand Thief. Evil Miscreant, unlikely, because you need like Shadow Step and Double Koboldaki, something like that. Well, you're also worried about, you know, you need multiple turns to be able to set up like the full Tortolan Pilgrim combos. So you have to predict that you're going to take a little bit of damage for a few turns in a row. And so he's going to unleash a Frost Nova here. Still another turn, though, that he risks drawing that second Blizzard, which, if he does, he's going to be in some trouble.
Trying to think about the applications of all these legendaries right now. Lady Liadrin gives him Shadow Steps, which is fun. Is there anything else that he actually has used that I'm not thinking about right now? Hard time remembering it, but look at the value in Monsanto's hand.
He's actually used Ray of Frost on his own minion.
Okay.
But I don't think that's how Lady Liadrin.
Ooh, more Shadow Steps. I appreciate the discipline for Monsanto to not play too quickly. I do feel like we've been noticing some players rush some of their decisions. But in this case, he's just opting out of the Questing Adventurer. Looks like he probably wants to commit to the Evil Miscreant instead.
Yeah. He knows that it's bound to just get frozen, so he should probably try to find a better option to use it. And yeah, Lady Liadrin would get Ray of Frost back. It would get the Twin Spelled version and the second version. So you have like 3 Rays. Not that that's super critical to his overall game plan, but hey, value's value, you know? But is it, like, value at a certain point in this matchup means nothing.
Oh, yeah.
It's about being able to end the game.
Totally. I think that's where that Draxus pick might end up being the real key. However, funny enough, he does put himself within 15 range, giving Bloodyface potential opportunities for maybe just easier combos from Bloodyface to kill him. Because he doesn't have access to healing. At least not from what we see.
Yeah, I think this Draxus is going to be, alright, when all else has failed, play Draxus and try and win the game that way. But you're right, like, it's risky because if Bloodyface is sticking minions, even without just burn. If he's sticking minions and freezing each turn, he said he's never able to interact.
My business.
Bloodyface is bored with his own minions. So, oh my gosh!
Texas Smuggler finds Eviscerate.
Eviscerate!
He's somehow amassed 8 damage from the hand, plus the swing from the Draxus with his blood fists.
Yeah. This is, and there is some crucial information here that's been given over because the Tortolan Pilgrim was played and only offered 2 spells, and Blizzard was the one played. So Monsanto can feel free to fill the board here because he saw the Blizzard played, so he knows that both Frost Novas are in the hand because he had already played a Frost Nova. So he can feel free to fill the board here because either Bloodyface has to Blizzard them away or he gets to attack. So I like just going for the Kobold Ike there, going for mana expenditure, trying to maximize damage output. I like the play. Now things are getting quite awkward for Bloodyface. He can go for... I mean, he can go for like Tortolan Pilgrim, Blizzard, or Tortolan Pilgrim plus Potion of Illusion, then Tortolan Pilgrim Blizzard. And then next turn, he can utilize the coin to actually play the Blackjack Stunner Tortolan Pilgrim. It looks like he's just going to play the more expensive one to go just for Blizzard this turn. I think that's a more flexible option.
Yeah, and so Bloodyface has to find a way to freeze again.
So damage from hand right now, 9.
Whoa. Yeah. He can prep the Eviscerate after he interacts his swings. Not to mention, Power Creation could also just generate that damage in some capacity as well.
Yeah. I think he does want to try to deal with this Tortolan Pilgrim on board to make sure that Bloodyface only has access to 1. But this will get the Shadow Steps back, Rays of Frost.
I wonder.
Shatrak will not fall in vain.
At this point, I'm starting to think really creatively of some stuff that we can do here, but I think this just makes sense. Kind of force your opponent into an awkward spot, can totally just Ray of Frost again, which the infinite combo, TJ. So part of the reason why this makes it really exciting is because Shadow Step and Liadrin have a really fun relationship together, where you can just keep getting more Shadow Steps and infinite value.
Yeah.
But of course, it's like, it's a silly thing, right? Because you're gonna Shadow Step Liadrin to Shadow Step her back again. But like,
Yeah,
so the Ray of Frost is pretty
I don't know what
funny.
that turn accomplished.
What are you talking about, DJ?
So it made it so
He
that
froze the Tortola Pilgrim 3 times.
yeah, I suppose that's quite the accomplishment for Monsanto. I guess it gave him a cheaper Lady Liadrin, so now next time he has more mana to use his Lady Liadrin.
Wait,
again.
what? Wait, no. Oh, TJ, there is some
What?
crazy 5-head stuff that you can do actually here.
Oh,
Okay.
eviscerate your own minion.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you just said that. Because I was thinking that I'm an idiot, but now that you said that, we're in it together. Congrats. All right. So
Every time he Shadow Steps the Lady Liadrin, though, it puts another
Right.
spell, which is another hand space that he has to give up. I'm pretty sure Lady Liadrin is based off of order of play, if it's consistent with other effects, which means that now he plays Eviscerate on his own minion. And that would take a lot of time to accomplish, to be able to generate enough Eviscerates.
it takes 2 turns because Liadrin becomes 5 mana. So you eviscerate your own minion, then you lay Liadrin twice in the same turn, and then you have 2 more eviscerates.
So many options.
And then you can lay Liadrin, eviscerate, prep, eviscerate.
What if you like weave in the Rays of Frost in between?
Right, that's the big issue. Having Ray of Frost come into the hand is actually a really annoying thing. And Monsanto actually has to start weighing the fact that now there's a big enough board where if he plays Draxus, he might just die to the pressure. There's 13 showing right now. So if he goes down to 15, he is asking for bad news.
Yeah.
All right, let's do this. Eviscerate. Lay Liadrin, more freezes.
Fall in rage.
Oh, okay, wait. Maybe his plan is to freeze the entire board so that Bloodyface doesn't have board space to play any battle cries.
I think so. Oh, that's so sick. That's actually
even
sick.
smarter. Okay. Okay. So then
Yeah, because now
Bloodyface.
Bloodyface can't trade off his minions, and he also can't make board space. So it's going to be impossible for him to weave in like any healing or damage.
Right.
And if Monsanto just keeps doing this and weaving in daggers, he's only a few turns away because of Jiraxis and Kobold Lackey.
Right. 5 damage burst. It's been a while, TJ, since I've seen his interaction, but Jiraxis, does he count as a different hero? So therefore you could swing with the dagger with Valera and then turn to Jiraxis and swing again?
I would imagine so, because that's the way it works with Galakron.
Right.
It also plays around freeze. Not that Bloodyface would be using Frostbolt, but this is the problem. The deck actually does run a lot of healing, but that's where the Race of Frost come in, because now Bloodyface won't be able to have the hand space, unless he dumps a lot of cards, to be able to Potion of Illusion the Tortolan plus a healing effect back. And Order of Play really comes into effect there. Like, Monsanto needs to make sure that he's killing... I guess it doesn't matter as long as all the Tortolans were played first, but it could get complicated once we get...
Kobold Lackey, Shadow Step, Lady Liadrin. Wait, does he get enough Shadow Steps actually? I think he does.
Wait, so
I think he's actually sequenced this correctly. He gets
he gets
3 Shadow
three?
Steps now.
Yeah, he gets 3.
He gets 3.
1, 2, 3. Oh, that's so sick. The Lady Liadrin is insane. I wasn't even thinking of that, because every time he plays it, he gets the Kobold Lackey back. That's way better than Eviscerates on your own minions and Jiraxis lethal.
Yeah. Okay, I see the genius of what Monsanto did. The phrase
Well
of Frost
spotted.
stalling. You know what he just did, TJ? He out-turtle mage the turtle mage. He froze the entire board, and he just played a bunch of battle cries with infinite value, and then killed the mage. How is that not poetic?
That was good.
Let me
send a message to Darroch Brown real quick. Monsanto versus Bloodyface. Game 2, Rogue Lethal. Boom. That'll be in top 5 plays for sure.
That was really, really dope. And I'm glad that we got to see that so early in the day, because the series is just heating up. Rogue improvises a lot. I called it Tempo Mage Light because many times you find yourself in situations where you just got to make it up. Spontaneous decision making, pairing of awkward cards that don't necessarily supposed to go together, and finding win conditions like Liadrin and Shadow Step, which generate an infinite value engine, and finding ways to manipulate that while considering your hand size.
Yeah.
The only thing that could have made that game even sweeter, TJ, was finding a way to squeeze Jiraxis. But it just was not meant to be, because clearly Monsanto had figured out a very good line. And the Kobold Lackeys end up being super clutch in that position. And, I got to hand it off to Monsanto. That was a really crafty and clever way to find a win condition in that spot.
Yeah, it wasn't even on my radar, honestly, because the Shadow Steps, I kept thinking that his hand would be so full that he wouldn't be able to fit in all these Shadow Steps, but perfect hand management, making sure you got that Shadow Step in the end, and knowing that if he had played any other spells on minions, it would have interrupted that chain because he needed exactly 5 hand space to get 3 Shadow Steps. Just well done. And now, Control Priest for Bloodyface. Had a very crazy game yesterday with the Control Priest versus Temple Mage from Just Saying. I actually tried to erase that game from my memory, so I can't give you any particular anecdotes, but I just remember that it was insane. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, very much so. All right, let's go into game number 3 here, the opening hands. Bloodyface only holding on to the Cabal Acolyte, finding couple of cards that don't have as big of an impact, but potentially could.
Oh.
The Wand Maker, the Cobalt Sticky figure doesn't do much. Monsanto finds Mana Giant.
I actually wanted to 4 keep there, as crazy as it seems. Because the Red Frost, decent, because this version of the Priest does actually play quite a few early game minions, Wand Maker included. But I guess looking for something a little bit more impactful. And does find Mana Giant, which works very well with the cards that he kept. Sorcerer's Apprentice, Mana Cyclone, and Evocation. This Mana Giant has the possibility to come down incredibly early. And Monsanto, from that Magic Trick, picks Counterspell, which honestly gives him a lot of cool planning opportunities to be able to drop a big board with that Mana Giant, which will likely be able to come down quite early, and have the ability to block like a Soul Mirror on quite a big board. So, oh my gosh, Shinvala, this hand is...
His hand is looking real nice. The Chinvala and the Sorcerer's Apprentice and the Mana Cyclone. How best to tie it all together, though? You know, sometimes you feel like you're drowning in all the value and you have to make sense of what you actually want to do and what priority. Do you want to just play the Chinvala right here? I feel like that's asking for Chinvala to die. So if not, then are you just waiting till turn 5 to play everything? Does that mean you're not going to get Mana Cyclone value if you just choose to play Sorcerer's Apprentice and Evocation and Chinvala? So there's some things that you have to try to figure out, despite the fact that Monsanto has theoretically every power card in his deck that he wants right now. He needs a little bit of direction on what he wants to do. I think for now, this is a really nice setup because perhaps you just ignore the Chinvala. Maybe the Chinvala is bait, and instead you play Sorcerer's Apprentice, play all these little cheap spells in Mana Cyclone, discount your Giant, and then when you had the Mana Cyclone spells, you use those to help buff Chinvala as like a second wave.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I mean, you could also do it the other way around. Use Chinvala first, and then once Chinvala is dealt with, then follow that up with Mana Giant. The problem is, if he plays the Shinvala early, it means that he's not getting Mana Cyclone out. So I think I like your way better. Because I'd rather have the value from Mana Cyclone. So, Nose is not, Flame Ward, Ice Bear, Vaporize. The Spellbender, Netherwind Portal, Counterspell, Mirror Entity. Decides to hold.
Oh, wow.
All right. Oh, man. How greedy of a boy is Monsanto?
So the issue with greeting is that then you start to run into situations that we've described throughout the weeks, which is your hand becomes too full. Oh, okay, this is nice.
He's a greedy boy. Oh, he's a greedy boy. He's a big old greedy boy.
Yeah.
He wants it all. He wants his cake. He wants to sell the cake. Then he wants to beat up the guy he sold his cake to and then eat it.
Ah, gotcha. I think you described every WoW quest ever. I was kind of getting a little bit into the Shadowlands stuff. There's some really cool things being planned for that. Like watching some streamers and whatnot, and I'm like, some of these quests that you play, especially if some of the people who still stream WoW Classic, I'm like, geez, there's some really ridiculous tasks. Just like if you sit back and analyze it from a daily human activity point, it's like, what are we doing again? What are we collecting? And where do I have to bring this to? And why? Why is this guy? Why am I working with this guy? I thought he's a bad dude.
You should have seen this in Pandaria. That was the ultimate level of ridiculousness.
Just a lot of absurd. I mean, the whole entire premise of Pandaria is just very silly and tongue-in-cheek. But Monsanto is going to commit to this play, which summons that 5/5 elemental, and if you want to be silly, just let this Chinvala live for a turn. I guess it's not super bad because Bloodyface theoretically has Soul Mirror to answer Chinvala, but you're never really happy to let your opponent generate so much value because that Soul Mirror could be doing way more.
Yeah.
Way more.
I like this setup from Monsanto. This is actually, if this was his plan from the get-go, this is actually not that greedy. It's saying, all right, we'll deal with this, and if you don't, then I go crazy with a Sorcerer Apprentice, Mana Cycle, and Mana Giant turn, and I don't have to worry about hand space because I just dumped a good amount of cards with this turn. That's also quite threatening. Evocation played, so that's Spellbender, Devolving Missiles, Magic Trick. Those are pretty decent pickups, honestly.
Trying to think if the sequencing matters a lot based off the magic trick. Like, is there anything that he wants specifically here for a pre-spell? Oh, okay.
Yeah, that
word
one.
pain.
That one seems good.
Now Devolving Missile seems even better. And you should be able to at least pick off one of these minions. It does.
Nice. And worked out quite well, I would say.
Right, and all of a sudden, Monsanto with a hand that looked like it was power valuing.
Oh,
wow. Quick picks. Evocation. Wow, that's a lot of cheap spells. Okay, so Learn Draconic. Tome of Intellect. He has a Font of Power. Mana Giant is guaranteed to be 0 this turn. Okay, I like Dune Sculptor a lot. I think that card, whenever I had an opportunity to play it, ends up sometimes surprising me in very profound ways.
I was going to say...
Monsanto ends up going for the Worm Weaver, but I like Dune Sculptor a lot.
I was going to say the exact same thing that you were about, that you said for Dune Sculptor, but for Worm Weaver.
Okay. I guess it's just because I feel like Priest can deal with Worm Weaver.
But can they deal with Mountain Giant and then deal with Worm Reaver? He got Fireball Frostbolt, so got damage from hand. Got another counterspell, so he's got multiple waves of protection here from board-wide removal. Or even just targeted removal at the Mana Giant.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I guess it's because... for some part of me, I feel like Monsanto's hands can't get there just from the Worm Weaver, but you're probably right here. Like, Monsanto probably has enough.
Do you like to play with fire?
Another part of me still feels like Monsanto might need a little bit more gas beyond the Worm Weaver, given that he knew that he was going to commit to spells. But wow. This Raise Dead and the counterspell dynamic really putting a big wrench into Bloodyface's plans, especially because now he can't kill that Sorcerer's Apprentice. You try to steal it, though.
He could. Or the Mana Giant would also be acceptable.
Dance, puppet.
Oh, the one minion he didn't want to take.
The absolute worst.
Bloodyface's disappointment as he sits back and watches what Monsanto can do. He might have an opportunity to use Murzon next turn, but it's looking dicey. Meanwhile, for Monsanto, how do we best press in here without overextending? I do like secrets. So Counterspell stops a top deck Soul Mirror from ruining your day.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, a double trade. Really respecting that Wild Pyromancer, excuse me.
Yeah, I think this Sorcerer's Apprentice has already done its job. So I think you can feel free to trade that off.
Goodness, look at what Bloodyface just drew. and we know that counterspell is up. However, bloodyface could find ways to navigate around it. For example, you could choose to wait a turn, play Murzon, summon a bunch of stuff, see what secret is actually played from Monsanto, and then react accordingly. But he is going to get some really bad news when he plays his Soul Mirror. A second counterspell. And just like that, bloodyface's 2 power cards that he wanted to play in back-to-back turns has gone awfully. And I think there's no coming back from that. I think bloodyface is dead.
He's dead. That's exact lethal. Pretty sure it's exactly 29.
All right. Stand corrected, TJ. If you get double counterspell with the mana worms to stop the Soul Mirror, Wormweaver is the nuts.
Yep, exactly 29. And it's funny because Frostbolt, Fireball, like, look at the spells he got from Mana Cyclone. Yes, the secrets, the other 2 secrets are pretty useless, but Frostbolt, Fireball, and the counterspell to set up a perfect exact lethal. What a game.
Yeah, I mean, there's some shenanigans happening here with Monsanto's back-to-back wins here. He got the Tempo Mage and the Rogue wins, and they feel like they've been really hard to predict from bloodyface's side, right? Like, how is he supposed to anticipate, like, the second Cobalt Lackey coming in for a bunch of damage? I guess maybe he could sort of decipher it, but there wasn't really much he could do. But for this game, it's like we have all the information, and we still couldn't really figure out a way for him to win based off how all the cards were falling.
Yeah, that was pretty tough, honestly. A lot different than some of the Control Priest games we've seen over the past day and a half. But nice little win there. Now Monsanto is left with the Warrior. But I'm slightly worried for the Warrior. The reason being is because the last couple decks for bloodyface do have some weapon text in there. Even though they're limited, they are present. The one Cobalt Sticky Finger in the Control Priest list, as well as the double Acidic Swamp Ooze in Turtle Mage. So if bloodyface was going to corner any specific deck with the remaining 2 that he has, maybe it is the Bomb Warrior after all. So we'll have to see, but given this Bomb Warrior 2 chances against decks that, while they do have weapon tech, don't have the ultimate string of weapon tech. Okay, well that's the ultimate string of weapon tech. Cobalt Sticky Finger and a Raised Dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of been bloodyface's plan, right? Try to see if you can find a way to corner the Warrior. We'll see. It's not necessarily easy to try to beat Warrior 3 times, but having weapon removal that's layered like this, definitely one way to do it.
Yeah.
And what a revelation it would be for Monsanto to get this win. You know, he kind of talked about how he submitted the wrong lineup this week. You know, and he said that he would definitely not want to play the list that he has right now with the Mage, but he ended up getting the Mage win. He just needs to get this Warrior win.
Yep.
And his record will now recover to a 3-3 and send bloodyface to an unprecedented 1-4.
Not the start I would have expected from a player like
it
bloodyface.
happens, though.
Not at all. Yeah. But still a lot of series left to be played. Did keep the Cobalt Sticky Finger Raised Dead. Can't even like kind of curate his minion pool here. Because with those 2 tools, this type of Bomb Warrior doesn't really play like too many threats early on, so you don't really have to play too many things to challenge it. He can essentially play like 1 minion and still have room for the Cobalt Sticky Finger to steal once a weapon does come down. The problem becomes if, you know, what if Monsanto's Fringe Calibers are, you know, stuck down in the bottom of his deck? Like, how long can he hold on and try and curate for the Raised Dead? But if that is the case, then, you know, shouldn't bloodyface pull so far ahead that it wouldn't matter? That's a question that we might have an answer to soon, because Monsanto doesn't have Corsair Cache or Wrench Caliber. He does have Cutting Class, but, you know, without those cards to support it, it costs 5 mana draw 2, which is the most expensive Arcane Intellect you'll find for a while.
Yeah, this cutting class needs to be a lot better than just an arcane intellect.
Job's done.
Okay, Corsair Cash.
Sure. So the card draw engine can really begin, and of course, just keeping in mind that he needs to avoid that weapon removal is going to be huge. And this gives Bloodyface a lot of time and where he can be patient here. Chooses to develop the Cabal Acolyte, which means that 2 minions are on the board. That also means that Raise Dead doesn't guarantee what he wants if he ends up having both those minions die and needing to revive one of them.
What is Elun's will?
And the Cobalt Sticky Finger.
I was going to ask if there was any merit to just playing the Cobalt Sticky Finger, but I guess that defeats the purpose of holding on to the Raised Dead, right? Because the Raised Dead is there, so you get 2. Whereas if you play Cobalt Sticky Finger and it gets removed, yes, you can Raised Dead it, but you want 2 to be able to have that, consistent game plan of removing bombs as a win condition for Monsanto, or removing a lot of the potential.
Yeah, totally. The idea here right now for Monsanto is, what can I do besides that? Can I just Galakrond on curb and pressure him enough to maybe win off of a little bit of minion damage and slowly whittling away with that net 1 damage from the Galakrond hero power? I think that might be his best chance.
Yeah.
I wonder.
It's a tough task to do because, if you're not like putting on meaningful pressure outside of that 3 damage a turn, Priest can easily negate that with their hero power, with Renew, randomly generated spells from Wand Maker, Cobalt Spellkin. Like, there's just so many ways for them to fight that.
Will?
You do need at least some weapon swings, some additional source of damage in order to find a win. And right now, Monsanto has just gotten off to a slow start, and Bloodyface feels like he has answers to anything that he can do. The problem becomes, like, what do you do in the meantime? Monsanto just had such a slow start that it feels like he needs to start playing mini. Well, I mean, he can overdraw. All right, Cobalt Sticky Finger.
Right. I think the Cobalt Sticky Finger is just to limit the options for Monsanto.
Yeah.
Which is nice because if Monsanto plays the Galakrond in this position, doesn't have enough damage to actually even kill this Cobalt Sticky Finger. So I think it's small things like that that just make him really uncomfortable. Which is probably the goal, right? Just slightly uncomfortable across the board.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing Warrior can really do. Warrior's kind of playing a kind of like a Priest style, which is just very defensive and disruptive and trying to like make things uncomfortable for the opponent, not actually finding a win condition just yet. If the game goes long enough, Monsanto might be able to shuffle bombs, and maybe 2 or 3 bombs can get into Bloodyface's deck and then use that damage to potentially close it out. It's going to be hard though. This is a very these kinds of games end up being very long because it comes down to like how efficient you can be in the early game. And can you find combo damage at the end of the game?
Yeah. Well, one thing I was going to say about this Galakrond play was it does leave him with a full hand. And 14 cards left in the deck. 2 of them are Wrench Calibers. I'm slightly uncomfortable.
It certainly looks pretty promising.
Not gonna do anything. All right.
Oh,
Still a pretty big burn though.
yeah, that's not the card that he wanted to burn. He's totally burning like, cutting class or something like that.
Yeah. All right, start chipping.
Yeah. Okay. 3 a turn. Back over to you. And we might see Bloodyface heal, remove, play a card, and then back over to Monsanto.
Let me change
And
your
repeat
mind.
many turns.
I'm trying to think about a way for Monsanto to actually utilize some of these removal spells in an effective way. Like, maybe Dr. Krasnov just comes out as a tempo 4/4 and kills a minion. But, like, the Armor Smith is actually a problem, so Monsanto does have to clear this. He does not want to let Armor Smith live too long because that kind of rats some of his late game win condition, right? The way that Monsanto has, like, a 2%... something like that, a chance to win from that position would be to get bomb outs. And right now, it does not seem like Monsanto will allow that Armor Smith to live because it would counteract that game plan.
Yeah. I don't necessarily know if Dr. Krasnov is the way to do that, just because I feel like he does need Dr. Krasnov just for recurring damage later on in the game. Sure. You know, there is a possibility that is the only Kobold Sticky Finger that he's going to deal with. Because now he's had multiple minions die, which means that it's not a guaranteed Ray's dead. And I guess that's Monsanto's plan. He just wants to kind of take this a little bit slower and, you know, really time that bomb damage. Like you said, try and get a couple shuffles in and then use those shuffles for a Blastmaster boom and then go for a push and all in, you know, a span of a few turns instead of trying to spread that out and shuffle a ton of bombs in over the course of the game, because that's just not going to work. It gives Priest time to plan for it, get it. All right, let's see. Sticky Finger. Nope.
Dance, puppet, dance.
There's still the Armor Smith, though, and he has another chance to get Sticky Finger.
Nope.
Does not.
Another Armor Smith.
What if you just out-heal the bomb with Armor Smiths? Not exactly the win condition I was thinking about.
I mean, there's some crazy stuff he can do with Wild Pyromancer. Like, say, Wild Pyromancer, Apotheosis with double Armor Smith on board. Like, that is an insane amount of healing. You throw in another 1-mana spell there, and you're cooking. You can go from, like, 10 health to 30 health quite quickly.
Totally.
And by quite quickly, I mean instantly. That's going to be a brawl.
Bloodyface is going to play more Armor Smiths this game than if Monsanto queued Warrior every single game in this entire series.
Yeah, no.
He's already played 5 Armor Smiths, right? Or no. He's played 3 Armor Smiths.
3.
He stole 1, then played it, and then revived 1. Oh no, and then he targeted 1 with Mind Flare. So he has 2 more Armor Smiths.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous with how much armor he's going to be able to potentially gain with this Wild Pyromancer. In fact, there's some really famous videos on Hearthstone YouTube that you can look up of how much armor gain. Like, there's like a world record of like thousands of armor that was given through like Wild Pyromancer and the Armor Smith. And if you find ways to like generate spells that heal, like Circle of Healing, there is some absolute nutty amounts of, no matter how much damage you deal, I'm going to win. Obviously, like, Bloodyface doesn't have a deck to do that, right? Instead, he's probably going to be able to generate, like, 60 armor if he really wanted to. That's still really relevant as Monsanto's hitting fatigue. 60 damage is like... Yeah, I was just going to say, like, 60 damage is like if Bloodyface drew all the bombs in a row, he'd still be at 30.
Yeah. And he could take some Boobot damage in there as well.
Yeah, he'd be fine. And then the Galakron would eventually die to its own fatigue. So there is this separate win condition here for Bloodyface, which is very amusing to me.
This is potential for insane healing.
So the play would be Wild Pyromancer, 2 Armor Smiths, and you want to play 4 spells. Ideally keeping the Wild Pyromancer alive because it only can play 2 spells before it dies. And so you do want to have, I guess a Renew can help. So he wants to have a bunch of 1-mana spells, and now bloodyface plays a Cobalt Spellkin. Ooh, Inner Fire, that's a nice one.
Yep.
And this is real pressure coming Monsanto's way. He has to actually deal with this. He does have Blade Storm. And he has the Kronks as his removal tools at the moment. Risky Skipper
Show you who's boss. Wait for me.
can actually swing at...
Yeah, he can trade Dr.
Right.
Krasnov and then swing with the weapon and hero power. Wait.
I think he forgot that Risky Skipper was going to survive, so he can't Blade Storm here.
I guess that does matter.
Just need to be a little bit tighter here. He also gives another target for Cabal Shadow Priest, which is pretty interesting because now Risky Skipper has a real use with his double Armor Smith situation.
Oh my gosh. He could.
Oh, is he going for it? Is it time,
Let's go.
TJ?
You just go for it now.
I mean,
Wild
he's got-
Pyromancer, Armor Smith, and then just start digging with Renews on the Wild Pyro.
Yeah. I like it. And then he can Holy Smite, for example, to start things off on the Risky Skipper, and then use the Renews
Yep.
on the Wild Pyromancer. He's going to gain so much life if he's able to find a single circle of healing. Towered Feast! Can heal the Wild Pyromancer here this way. That's funny.
I might have gone for the second Renew just for the Circle of Healing, like you mentioned. That would have been insane. All right, 18 armor.
Yeah, you know, that ended up not being as great. You know, I think the Renew might have been slightly preferred for me as well.
Yeah.
Because the Circle of Healing just would have been the nuts. I mean, bloodyface would have gained like upwards of 40 armor before Monsanto clears off the board. I guess he did have the Galakron, the Kronks with the Galakron already active, so he could actually 5 damage AoE wipe. So maybe not nearly as much as we're anticipating, but this is still a lot of life that bloodyface has gained and will continue to gain because this Blade Storm will give even more life.
Yeah. But like Bloodyface still needs like that meaningful, win condition, right? Like Monsanto can just keep racking these bombs up because there's no Cobalt Sticking Finger that he has to worry about unless a Raised Dead is generated, and then there's been a lot of minions in the pool. He does have still a lot of healing left in his deck, a lot of potential healing still as well with Cobalt Spellkin, Renew in hand, a lot of disruption, just like the raw damage. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean, right now, Bloodyface at 54. Monsanto plays a 8/8 Dragon. Bloodyface clears it. In fact, Blade Storm gives a lot of this. Bloodyface can also steal. He can actually just Wave of Apathy, Cabal Shadow Priest. This is really interesting.
I wonder.
I think I like the Cabal steal, though, because your opponent's at 17, steal their big taunt. Let's say they Blade Storm again to clear. You can play Murazon right back to clear their board. So I think this makes sense to me.
Let me change your mind.
And complete another domination, right, of this like matchup. You can see that Monsanto did his absolute best to play around the cards with Bloodyface. And he's really tried to min-max a couple small little like things maybe could have improved, but I don't even think that it would have materially moved the needle here for Monsanto. These bombs, though, will definitely help. What's really funny So I would love to see bloodyface play Murzon. The only issue is that there's no guarantee of the sequencing of stuff.
I know.
So,
He could upgrade Wrench Caliber, then upgrade again, and just be left with a
Right.
1/3 weapon.
Well, the upgrade
Or he
once
could
you
Horde
have-
Pillager and get back an Anchor. Oh, no, it doesn't work. No Battle Cry. Sorry, I'm a dummy.
Yeah, it's a battle cry.
All right, so
All right.
how many bombs left? 2 bombs left.
Yeah.
And 43 health remaining. So I
Right.
don't even know if the clock is in Monsanto's favor. With only 3 cards left.
It really is not, especially if bloodyface gets to push damage here. Okay, Wild Pyromancer, Holy Smite, and Renew and Inner Fire clears the board, and bloodyface gets to push damage.
I wonder.
That might be worth because, like, if you're looking at the cards remaining from Warrior, what kind of removal options do they have actually right now?
Just Bladestorm, right? There's a Brawl left in the deck. The last 3 cards are Brawl, Shield Block, Blastmaster. Shield Block, pretty useless, honestly. Because with how long you know this game is going to go, the 5 armor means less than the additional fatigue that you're going to take. Okay, there's Brawl.
I
So
like it.
last 2 cards, Blastmaster Boom and Shield Block. Is there ever a world where you accelerate and go Cutting Class, Blastmaster Boom, Bladestorm?
I really want to hero power every single turn from
Yeah.
Monsanto's perspective.
Yeah.
Brawl on a 3/3 and a 3/1. What?
Can he wait one more turn? I mean, and also the Bladestorm feels so like when he plays Dr. Boom, if a Soul Mirror comes out, he's likely dead if he doesn't kill off his
Right.
bombs immediately. And now Bloodyface knows which cards are left, so he can could find
Ooh,
the Soul Mirror with Cleric of Scales.
big dragon available for
taunt.
bloodyface.
You don't
No removal left.
Right. Monsanto used all of his stuff, and I think that's why Monsanto was kind of took a deep breath, kind of recognizing that he might be unable to deal with bloodyface's setup here.
Running out of cards.
Last Master Boom. And the hard part is he didn't want to see a taunt, but he's got to swing here in order to increase his chances that he even has a small percent, a sliver of a percent.
And so
win
he
this
doesn't
game.
die to Inner Fire, which he would have.
Okay, that's not exactly the card I was thinking about when you
Wait.
play around that, but
Does he still die to Inner Fire? So Renew brings it up to 4, plus a heal brings it up to 6. Apotheosis brings it up to 9.
Maybe?
9, 10, 11, 12. That's lethal. Right? Yeah, so you Renew, you Apotheosis, then you heal it, then you Inner Fire, and that's 3 plus 9.
yeah.
Exactly 12.
All right. Well done by Bloodyface, and that's going to be game number 4. Bloodyface trying to make a comeback here in Division A with a 1-3 record, looking to see if he can improve it to 2-3, while Monsanto would fall to 2-4, which would be just so annoying to deal with because it feels like you have to go a perfect 2-0 to be playoff contention. But you can't because 2-4 means that you only have one more game to play. Everyone plays 7 games. Either way, we're going to go to game 5. And it's come down to a mage versus the warrior, where I think a lot of warriors for a while felt really good against the mages because you could just play a bunch of removal against it. But, I mean, look at Bloodyface's mage. It's not your traditional mage that you like to play. It's the turtle mage.
Yep.
With
Turtle
acidic
Mage
swamp
with double
oozes.
ooze. Yep. So I feel like this one's going to be tough for Monsanto. He's got to get that fast start. One of the things, the interactions is if you can shuffle enough bombs in, it adds a fourth spell to the Tortolan Pilgrim pool, which can sometimes ruin your chain of Potion of Illusion, Blizzard. So combo may not necessarily be a thing, but attrition can be. So this can get really weird once you get to the later stages of the game. So I've watched and played this matchup a handful of times, and it just gets super weird because of that interaction specifically. If one player doesn't run away with the game, which Total Mage doesn't really run away with games too often, the interaction of Tortolan Pilgrim and having bombs in the deck can sometimes be weird. And unless you draw like double Nova early or double Blizzard early and you only have three different spells in the deck, then you just have a bomb in the rotation instead of 2 spells. But I feel like that happens less often because you're not keeping those cards and you're trying to actively avoid drawing them most of the time.
Yeah, it kind of really depends on how this early game plays out for both sides, because Bloodyface might have to constantly pivot based off of what he's given, and in really awkward situations if he draws his potions of illusion.
All right, let's see it. Turtle Mage versus Bomb Warrior. That's an aggressive hand from Monsanto, as aggressive as Bomb Warrior can be. Just maximum weapon. Just keep like court. Is Galakrond a keep in this matchup? I actually don't know. It's consistent damage from hand.
I would say it is, just because you want to be able to pressure the mage once they're freezing your board. And he has Corsair Cash, so I don't think you need Wrench Caliber.
Yeah.
So you can throw it away to, say, pick up cards that help synergize with things like your weapons, like Dr. Krasnov. Yep. Okay, throws away the Horde Pillager as well. It's totally fair.
Yep, that's what I expected. An upgrade. I think the Horde Pillager is a little too hopeful, because ideally you want to Corsair Cash and then keep buffing the first weapon that you have and play Horde Pillager when you have to. But this is about as much as like upfront loaded damage as you can get with Corsair Cash into Wrench. Oh, we'll get the Horde Pillager back. Corsair Cash into Wrench Caliber, upgrade it. Horde Pillager when you're out of charges, then Galakrond, and then Kronks. And we'll see if Bloodyface can withstand that amount of pressure. Deck does have a lot of healing. He runs Acidic Swamp Ooze, he runs Cartoon Defender, he runs Earth and Ring Farseer. So he has ways to stop that damage, but that damage can get pretty intense once this game goes towards the later stages, because unless you have the Acidic Swamp Ooze early, there's going to be a critical mass of bombs that get shoveled in at a certain point, and you need to get to your combo and start weaving in heal in order to have possibilities of trying to out-heal it, which is very difficult.
Yeah, I suppose that this weapon destruction, the Horde Pillager ends up being a nice pickup again because of that. So the insurance of it, which is not something that you bank on, right? You're not trying to say like, oh, I know that my opponent will have their best cards, and as a result, I have to keep this dead card otherwise. But still, a very annoying situation here for Monsanto, who would love to have played this Horde Pillager, but he can't fall too far behind on the tempo here.
Yeah, I also like this because the Horde Pillager would just die to the Imprisoned Observer, and just in case there is a potion in hand, he doesn't want to get blown out by the possibility of his Horde Pillager dying, Bloodyface getting a 1-mana Ooze back in the hand anyway, and being able to play the potion plus Ooze again the next turn. That would be like a huge potential for a blowout in the game. So I like just the taking it slow, taking some damage off the board, and now going for a Horde Pillager on the following turn.
Yeah, agreed. I think I really like the idea that you really want to go for those guarantees as opposed to trying to like always just play things mindlessly and hope that your opponent doesn't have those cards. And Bloodyface, look, he ended up picking up the Potion of Illusion, which is actually pretty humorous. So had he ended up committing to a line like that, it might have been disastrous.
Yeah. Cartoot Defender, some of the healing would be wasted, and I guess you can try and set up for a potioned Cartoot next turn. Because you could trade over the Horde Pillager, but how likely is this Cartoot Defender to stick on the board if you do that? And also, how valuable even is the potion on the Cartoot Defender? That's a pretty tough turn. Because the potion, I feel like, has so much more potential than what could be from just trying to set up for it next turn. But also, like, if you fall into this trap of, I always want more value from this potion that's in my hand, you may never get that value because you've waited too long.
Yeah, not to mention that Tortilla and Pilgrim has to consider hand space in the later stages of this game. So trying to maximize Potion of Illusion value might end up being something that you regret later on.
Yeah.
Also, Bloodyface has a situation where the more cards, or the fewer cards that he's holding, the better evocation can maybe give him the silver bullet in a situation where he needs like an exact mage spell to get out of an awkward spot.
Yeah. So looks like a upgrade and cutting class turn. See what comes of that. Blastmaster Boom.
Tombs.
Armor made to fit.
So Armorsmith, I guess just to contest the 1 health minions on board.
Sure.
I was gonna say he's probably brawling next turn, but that might actually not be true considering he has Blastmaster Boom on 7. There are 2 bombs. An attack next turn would mean there'd be 3 bombs, so it will be a fully loaded Blastmaster Boom. But maybe you want to go for a timing on the Blastmaster Boom to try and get that damage in immediately. All right, so Big Potion comes out, gets Cartoot Defender, gets rid of Farseer, and that is a ton of healing available for Bloodyface now.
Not to mention that he's significantly fallen behind on tempo, and he's taking a pretty decent amount of damage so far with 11 on the board. So not exactly the ideal spot for Monsanto in terms of his current defense.
Maybe you just get the Galakrond out of the way here and go for like a brawl next turn to start cleaning things up and maybe hoping you can push damage. Then you give up your ability to armor up. But you also unlock Kronks and get the mana out of the way to be able to play Kronks in the future if the board gets out of control.
Right.
I don't think Blastmaster Boom is on the menu just because even though it's fully loaded, you're kind of wasting the attack of the Cartoon Defender, and then the damage that you deal from the Boombox can be healed back up by the potioned minions that Bloodyface got back from the last open. So yeah, I think Galakrond makes the most sense.
Oh, it just feels so bad.
Ooh,
Risky Skipper
gets
though.
buffed, gets infinite Risky Skipper value. Massive pickup. Not really. He doesn't really have enough minions to capitalize on infinite Risky Skipper value from having a buffed Risky Skipper.
I mean, yeah, he's got Risky Skipper for a Blastmaster Boom play.
That's true. A big Risky Skipper.
I'm worried that Monsanto's just gonna die. He has no armor hero power. He has no ways to gain life outside the Kronks. And like, if I'm Bloodyface, I'm thinking about playing Wand Thief and collecting damage spells here. He has 2 of them.
Yeah.
Makes me very inclined to find a way to get that damage in now. I mean, you might even find Pyroblast.
Time runs out on me.
Okay, Magic Trick is probably just better since you can situationally pick a really important card. Finds evocation number 2.
Oh my gosh. 2 evocations.
Total intellect,
Tome
the
of
only thing of
Intellect.
value.
Yeah, and fit in a ping because you're ever so closer to killing him, especially now that he can't armor up and has already played an Armor Smith. All right, Risky Skipper Dr. Krasnov, that's something, but you're taking a lot of damage, right? So you Risky Skipper Dr. Krasnov. Dr. Krasnov goes into the 4-3. You still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 damage on board. You do, however, get to push 8 damage to the face and shuffle another bomb. So Bloody Face would heal back up to 30, then go down to 22. But I guess Kronk's is just cleaner. The problem is just either you shuffle a bomb with Wrench Caliber or you don't attack for the turn and don't get to hero power this turn, which doesn't feel quite as clean. But I think at this point he has to worry more about his own life total. Actually, at a certain point, you put him down to 22, you clear most of the board. Is there any world where Risky Skipper, an attacker, Risky Skipper, and a Blast Messenger in the next turn with 4 bombs in the deck find lethal? I don't know. Maybe not.
I mean, yes.
Maybe this is just as likely because you do get to push the damage as well. It's just now you don't have the Wrench Caliber anymore.
So your Sapiens Playface can utilize that very effectively to ensure that he's not drawing his second potion. That's a very big pickup. Not to mention that the Tortolan Pilgrim Pain Train is about to start here. Monsanto.
Yeah, but there is 4 spells in his deck now. So there's Potion of Evolution, Blizzard Bomb, and Frost Nova. So there is a chance, there is a failure rate for the Potion of Illusion.
Right.
On the Tortolan Pilgrims.
Is this the time to go for the boombots?
It might be. Because you also have the upside of potentially being able to get this, well, taking out the Tortolan Pilgrim and then potentially getting this 6 damage to face.
What about?
So you know there's now 1 Cartoon Defender and still 1 Earthring Farseer in the hand for Bloody Face. Care about those things? Does it even matter? I mean, what else do you do in this situation? That's my question. I just don't think there's anything better. All right, taking it slower. I think maybe he wants to have Blastmaster Boom be just the finishing damage.
Yeah,
Actually, this puts a lot of power on board.
Well, he gets a hit for 6 this way too.
Yeah, he gets a hit for 6 this way too. He did the last time as well, but he also... Why he played the non-buff Seaskipper.
I guess he doesn't want it to be softened up too much, but you have to kind of assume that any minion you play right now is just going to get frozen eternally because they have the 1-mana Tortolan Pilgrim.
Suppose.
So this second Frost Nova draw is actually pretty nutty for Bloody Face. Now he has only 3 spells in his deck. Yeah.
He's got guaranteed.
Monsanto doesn't know that.
Yeah.
He's going to be like, oh my god, I got the potion again.
Yeah, because he's still seeing 3 cards, so there's no information being given to him. And maybe with how, you know, brazenly Bloody Face is playing these Tortolans, he can kind of get a good idea about the potion, or about the double Frost Nova in hand, or double Blizzard.
Okay. Ray of Frost is nice. It's basically a freeze for 1 mana that you don't have to worry about. You don't have to expend Frost Nova. And I like that Bloody Face is mindful of his hand space. Does not want to necessarily play some of these minions, or sorry, his board space. He doesn't want to necessarily fill up the board just because he can. You don't want to create a situation where you can't actually play any of these heal minions.
So He still has one Sky Raider left in his deck as a pirate.
What about?
I'll show you who's boss.
He'll still gets that last draw, but I believe that is his last pirate.
That's correct.
Outside of the one
no,
that
second
is
to last
drawn.
pirate, TJ.
I stand corrected.
Yeah, we're basically the, Bloodyface has Monsanto dead in 9 turns. But that shield block can stall for a little bit of time. Larger picture, though, how does Bloodyface ever lose from this situation? Like, I think if he can afford to take the bomb damage, he will, and then heal it up. And just avoids ever drawing that Potion of Illusion.
Yeah. I don't know, it'd have to be like multiple turns in a row where Bloodyface has to shuffle bombs to the bottom. And then its Sphere of Sapience is destroyed, and then the very next turn, it wouldn't work like that. He'd have to shuffle something into his deck.
You're in my hands now.
Okay, finds just more healing opportunity, and I think there's no way for Bloodyface to reasonably try to set up any kind of kill now that his opponent's at like 14, so
You're
just
in
have to
my
stall for a little bit
hands
longer and
now.
wait to see if Monsanto can actually threaten him.
It's just so hard to find any condition from this point. I guess like he tries to stall, use these removal tools in order to stall out, and then once it's Bloodyface, if he sees a bomb, he's just going to shuffle it to the bottom with Sphere of Sapience. A Wrench Caliber Swing will then reshuffle the deck, so it could put the bomb back on top, but then he still has 4 Sphere of Sapience's charges left. Which means he needs a ton of swings and a ton of time to make sure that he's shuffling enough and going for enough. In order to find 30 damage. Cards left in the deck: Upgrade, Armorsmith, Cutting Class, Deathwing, Mad Aspect.
What if?
None of those seem like they're game-winning enough, but he does need the health here to try and buy some time. He's going to start taking fatigue is one thing, and once he starts taking fatigue, he's on an even shorter clock, and he'll need like at least 4 turns before bomb damage is even a thing because of the Sphere of Sapience. This is not looking good.
Yeah, it's looking pretty bad, and Monsanto is roping out, imagining a way that he can win when it doesn't seem like he can. Now into that state of that game where, like, Bloodyface can't really win. Obviously, he can't really lose from this spot.
What happens if he can't win and can't lose?
I mean, that's kind of the situation that we're in right now.
Yeah, and
He
Monsanto
can't,
can't win and can
doesn't
very
have-
much lose.
He doesn't have to
The
play
wheels
a
are
card.
turning for Monsanto. He's trying to think of something, but like,
Yeah, Bloodyface doesn't have to play any cards, really. He can just keep attacking. Like, if he's stuck at 10 cards, so what? He's pushing 5 damage. Monsanto still has to do something.
yep.
Playing a secret here is just fun for disruption, I guess. But it does summon a minion onto the board that you might not want to have. Like, if you have a minion that gets potioned that you're not looking to copy.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, he might not even need any potions to end up winning this game. It's kind of crazy. Like, Monsanto has to deal with multiple boards, just these minions that are being put onto the board. And has to find multiple turns where he's shuffling bombs in. Bloodyface is drawing the bombs, shuffling the bomb to the bottom of the deck with Sphere Sapience, that Monsanto has to swing with Wrench Caliber to reshuffle the deck to even have a chance for another bomb to be drawn for Bloody Face. Or more of a chance for another bomb to be drawn for Bloody Face, and has to do that for 3 turns. At least 3 turns.
What?
And in the meantime, he has to not die. That seems like a very unlikely scenario.
Yeah, doesn't seem like this is going to happen the way that Monsanto would hope it does, and maybe.
What if?
So right here, TJ, I would say in positions like this is where decks like Rogue are to be considered for tournaments. Just to go on a little off tangent here, because it seems like Monsanto's roping down here. We can't really figure out too many ways for him to win. Ends up thinking about Brawl, not, still kind of just takes 6 damage anyways. But I was talking about how decks like Rogue and Mage, they function as decks that are just, they can find ways to win with cards outside their deck that can really make it difficult for people to plan around. Turtle Mage completely preys on decks that don't generate random cards, that can't pressure from the hand, and that don't get started fast enough that Turtle Mage ends up dying to aggressive strategies. And from here, like, Monsanto wishes that he had cards that, like, you know, could do some wacky stuff. But there's just no possible way. There's so much inevitability in this kind of board state that it feels like you're completely helpless against Turtle Mage.
What even is that card?
I know this. I actually summoned this exactly. I think it was 2 days ago when I was playing. Give me a sec. It is the
Crush your delusions of grandeur.
Shifty Sophomore. That's right. It's a
Oh,
rogue
okay.
Spellburst minion that adds a combo card to your hand.
Yeah.
Someone's out on me. Score!
We had that
And
come
he
up
doesn't get
in,
the
like,
Spellburst
week
because he played
1 of
Evocation.
Swiss. He's okay with that?
Yeah. Anyways,
That's good.
Fireball for 7. Gonna finally put Monsanto out of his misery. And it was a slow one, but important one for Bloody Faces. Now improves to a 2-3 record. Monsanto finishes his 6th match with a 2-4 score, putting him in prime range for potentially qualifying for the relegation bracket. Not that he's trying to qualify for it.
For the second
and that's gonna be
season
tough.
in a row, right?
Tough times for Monsanto fans. But he fought really hard, and he really tried to get a win with the Warrior. But we see why Warrior is a class that people are targeting. They feel like it's a legitimate opportunity to find a way to get a conquest victory by making sure you beat the same deck repeatedly. So Monsanto does end up losing, and congrats to Bloody Face. He's able to turn around a weekend, which looked like it was kind of rocky at the start, but able to weather the storm today.
Yeah, a much cleaner series as well than what we saw yesterday. So like to see that. Seemed like he was more up and more alert and thinking through his plays a lot more. And maybe realizing that 1-3 is not an acceptable start